Okay. Thank you for coming. We're going to keep letting people in as we get started here, but I appreciate your time and for you being willing to come and hear about how to do basketball at Grand Rapids Christian this Winter 2 season. So my name is Kevin Bruni. I'm the athletic director here at Grand Rapids Christian Middle School, and I'm also the assistant athletic director at Grand Rapids Christian High School. So I appreciate your time, and I'd love to start us in a word of prayer before we begin. God, thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to have our kids participate in basketball this winter. We're so grateful for your school and for all the families that are a part of that school. We appreciate the support and the care that they have to raise their children in a Christian school. And we're so grateful that we have the classroom of athletics to help kids understand a little bit more about your world. May we honor you. May our parents, our coaches, our kids all honor you in all that we do throughout this next season. And God, we're especially thankful for this Christmas season where we get a chance to celebrate the birth of your son. We're so grateful for time with family and for this opportunity to be together tonight. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming. I want to start by just saying that as we go throughout the night, I have muted you right now, but I believe if you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask that question at any time. And I'll try to stop a few times throughout to see if anybody needs anything, but also there's a chat function in the bottom of your toolbar there. So if you type in your name in the chat or anything in there, you can certainly put some questions in there, and I'll try to find those questions and answer them as we go throughout the night. So please feel free to type things in there, and I'll get back to them as we go throughout our meeting. So 2 ways to communicate tonight, and please let me know if there's something that I missed or something that you're wondering about. I want to make sure that I serve you and get as many of your questions answered as possible. So quickly, just to begin, some of you have been in our meetings before, but quick philosophy of athletics. We think that middle school is a great place for kids to learn, to grow, to play, to make mistakes, to have fun, to have disappointments, to have challenges, and to be led through that in a way that Christian mentors try to do that with our kids. And so we love the opportunity for kids to participate and to learn and to grow. And to learn about the Lord through the classroom of athletics. It's something that's really important to us. And that's our main thing, is just learning and growth and opportunities for kids to socialize and learn about the gifts God has given them. So as we pivot into basketball, 5th and 6th grade, welcome. It's a new level of basketball for many of you. It's interscholastic athletics. It's school athletics, which is a little bit different than recreational athletics. There's no longer equal playing time. Our games are 24 minutes and 6 minutes are required. So 1/4 of the game is required. There's a minimum of 3 meetings a week that we do. And again, in interscholastic school athletics, we expect that your child will be at all 3 of those meetings. Where my son's in rec, if you can't make it, you just don't make it. We hope that now that we're stepping that up a little bit, that you can make sure that you try to get your schedule to work with our posted schedule that we'll send out. And that you can make sure that your child is there to participate in each of those events each week. We want to communicate well about tardiness and absences, and being timely with that is really important. So please communicate with your coaches well. We do train and manage and pay these coaches that I interview people for positions. And so, our coaching is not necessarily just volunteer anymore. It's people who really want to do this, and I interview them and hope that they have the same goals for coaching athletics that we have as an athletic department, which we kind of talked about above. And the schedule is generated by the league. We pay officials. It's a whole different thing than what rec sports is. 7th and 8th graders, you're moving up into that next tier of prepping for high school. And same as 5th and 6th grade, except developmentally, it's becoming more appropriate. So the games are longer. They're 32-minute games, still a 6-minute minimum required. We compete 4 days a week instead of 3. In 7th grade, we're still trying to split equally, just so that you kind of understand how we are dividing teams. In 5th and 6th and 7th, we split equally as best that we can according to the coaches and what they think about how to make equal splits. But in 8th grade, we have team formation by developmental appropriateness. And so there is a little tryout process where the coaches will formalize kind of who's in the upper tier and who's in the more developmental stages. And they try to put 2 teams together, and we enter the league that way. There is 2 leagues in 8th grade, one with more developmentally appropriate levels. So we'll enter 1 team in each one of those levels. Any questions about 5th through 6th or 7th and 8th grade kind of synopsis of how we do teams and what you're stepping into as far as those sports are? If you have a question, you can unmute and just ask it. Otherwise, you can type it in the chat. Okay, looks like we're doing okay. So I'll check back later. So please make sure you put something in there if you have a question. A couple of reminders as we start the season and doing team formation. It's always good just for us to be on the same page that, sports are participatory and voluntary. They're not a right. They're something that is a privilege. And so that means that we want to take them seriously, but also remind our children that, school is still most important. And we have to, in the behavior in the school, the academic part of school, those things are most important, and they do play a role in your privilege to play athletics. So please remind them of that. It takes a lot of courage to do this and be out in front of a crowd and out in front of your classmates. And we know that's a big step for kids. We want to make sure that you understand that, the coaches are doing their very best with your child's experience in mind. That none of our coaches are hired to win championships. None of our coaches are hired to, because they have this huge salary or something. This is simply, they want to love your child and do the best they can to teach them this sport along the way. And so please, work with them. A note that if you have a later practice, and we'll talk about practices later, your child must go home after school. They cannot stay here. We don't have any supervision for them here. So they have to go home after school and be brought back in some way. And that can pose challenges for some families. And so we encourage as much as possible for people to carpool and work with teammates and that sort of thing, or to use the homework club that we have here, so that kids can get back to school. A reminder that playing time is not equal. And I want to show you a little bit of what that looks like. I have a document that I'm going to share with you a minute so you can see a little bit about our playing time. And so are you able to see this playing time document? If you are, could you just kind of show me like a little thumbs up or something? I'm losing people here. Hold on. I got to find.
We can see it.
You can see it? Okay. Yeah, I can't see you. I've lost something in mine, but I'll figure that out. But yeah, so you can see it. So basically what we're doing with playing time is that, as you can see an overview there, we value the development of skills and people over winning. And so as we go from 5th to 8th grade, the playing time could become less and less equal along the way as we get higher. So basketball, GRCMS does not require or recommend equal playing time. That's our league, and nor does Grand Rapids Christian. And the league requires 6 minutes of playing time for each child in each game. The way that we play that out for our students is that if we have kids that are showing up on time, consistently, trying their best, having a good attitude at their practices and games, it is our coach's goal, and this is what I teach all of our coaches, it is their goal to try to beat those minimums in every single game for the kids that are doing these things, right? That process of being part of something bigger than yourself is such an important thing that we want to teach kids, that even if you don't have the most skill on your team, we want to try to beat those minimums to reward that process that's so important to becoming a resilient and gritty person along the way. Being on time, doing your best, having a good attitude, and being there for other people. And so if they're doing that, our goal is to beat the minimums in every single game they play. Now, this doesn't mean that everyone plays equally. And it could mean that they play 6 minutes. That's up to the coach, but our goal is to make sure we try to beat that whenever possible. If someone is not showing up or not giving their best effort or displaying bad attitudes or attitudes unbecoming of an Eagle, it's possible that person, regardless of their talent, could get less playing time, even though they may be the most talented player on the team. And sometimes that's hard for people to understand too, but they're so good. Yeah, but if they're going to behave their process in this way, or they're not going to do their best, or they're going to have a bad attitude, we don't want to reward that with as much playing time, even though they may be the best. So the coaches have the latitude to kind of work within that framework and that process. As I mentioned before, playing time in 8th grade will be probably less equal than playing time in 5th grade. And only guaranteed playing time is required by the league. No parent should expect that things will be equal at any time, especially as the kids get older. Just want to set an expectation level, because my son is in rec sports right now, and that's pretty much all equal all the time. Everybody's getting the exact same amount, which is appropriate for that age level. And as we step it up towards the high school levels, we start to take small baby steps in the direction of that. And so it's always important for me to show you kind of what I show our coaches and what I teach our coaches and how to interpret that so that we're all on the same page and all understanding kind of the same thing there. I see a question here. Just one second. I'm just going to check this a minute. So it says 7th grade is tryouts, but they all make it. Yeah, so every grade, I guess you can call them tryouts. I call it team formation. So what we have is the coaches are with all of the kids, and they're watching all of the kids participate in all these drills and activities and scrimmages so that they can see what everybody's level of ability is. And then what they'll do is they'll try to create 2 equal teams after seeing that. Everyone makes it, there's no cuts, but they use the team formation or tryout time, as Sharon mentioned, to kind of see and try to balance the teams as best they can. But everybody makes it on all of our levels. But we do separate the teams in 5th through 7th equally. And then in 8th grade, we developmentally appropriate. So more experienced players will play on a different team than people who are newer to the game. So I hope that answers your question, Sharon. Please follow up if I missed it. So any other questions that we have as we just finished the playing time document? That's always a big part and something that I want to make sure is really clear for parents. And I explain it in my coach meeting next. Coaches will get that same communication and be able to ask all those questions too. So I like to make sure we're on the same page. If I see other questions, I'll address those as we go. Next on my list is a conversation about officials. In basketball, officials are always a hot button topic. If you were at our game on Friday with Catholic Central, you might have wondered some things about the officiating or even contributed to some conversations from the stands to the officials. In middle school, it's a little bit different. We have to be really careful with how we do that. Overall, in our state, we're very short on officials, to the extent that we have had in the past games canceled due to not having officials at the middle school level. We've had high school games canceled due to not having officials available. And so one thing I always want to make sure I talk to parents about is that it's really important that we treat our officials with love and care and respect, especially when we're Grand Rapids Christian schools. Officials are already people are not joining officiating because they know what it's like to be in the stands and they hear what everybody says about and to the officials that are on the floor. So people aren't interested in joining an occupation where they're constantly badgered and yelled at by people and minimalized. And so it's really important for us as a Grand Rapids Christian community to start at the middle school level and teach ourselves how to be supportive of our teams rather than critiquing the officials. And so I always encourage people, be glad that they show up, because then we get to play. You might have the worst officials. I mean, we're in middle school basketball here, right? Like, we're short of officials in the high school level, right? Who do you think we get to get our games, right? We don't get the top officials in the state of Michigan. We shouldn't expect that they're going to be the best officials in the state of Michigan. We should expect they're people that are trying to learn, just like our kids are trying to learn the game. And just like some of our coaches are learning how to coach the game. We should expect that and encourage and be glad that they're there. And if you, and I always say this in a joking way, but if you have those major critiques from the stands, maybe you are the next person that needs to become an official, because we're short on them. And if you're going to spend time in the stands giving those officials a hard time about their calls, then man, we need you on the court. We really need you to volunteer, get on the court, and start getting paid to be an official. I can get you connected. Our league director who manages all our officials, he does a great job of shepherding people right into officiating. And so, man, if we hear you, don't be surprised if you see me come over, give you a nice smile, and encourage you to join, the group of officials that are helping us do this game so that our kids can participate. We would love to have you join us. And so please, love on our officials. Please talk to them, give them encouragement. When they leave, thank them. If you don't have anything good to say, like my dad always told me, don't say anything at all. And it's just a great way to try to serve them and keep them helping us out. Our team formation for our 5th through 8th grade will begin the week of January 3. And that will last 2 to 3, maybe 4 days, depending on your group. But that will start the week of January 3. You have not received any information from your coach yet, because our coach meeting is tonight. And we have quite a bit of time. We just do this meeting now because of Christmas break, and everybody has kind of a crazy schedule over that. So you will get information from them. I'm going to instruct them to email you between the holiday about the start of your season on January 3 or 4. And so please, just as you're going throughout, take a look, see if you can get an email from a coach that's going to give you some information about your tryout week with dates and times of your practices, so we can do team formation that first week. After that first week, you'll be assigned a team, and then you'll have a lead coach that you can always be connected to. That way, if you have questions, you can always talk right to that coach. Instead of emailing me or emailing a big group of people, you can always go right to that coach. And what we will do is we will load you onto something called TeamSnap. Many of you are familiar with TeamSnap. It's an application for your phone. You can also look it up on a desktop computer or laptop. But we'll load you in there as part of that team. And all you have to do is accept the invitation, and you'll start getting all of your communication through TeamSnap. You get reminders in there. It's a fantastic tool that our league uses. And we're excited that you'll be able to just be loaded right on there. So that first week will kind of be, email communication. And then after your child is on a team, you'll get loaded onto TeamSnap, and all of your communication will start coming through TeamSnap. Okay, any questions about TeamSnap or officials or any of the things we've talked about so far? Playing time. Looks like we're doing well, so we're just gonna keep heading through. Your practice schedules will come from your coach, directly from your coach. They'll be in TeamSnap, so they'll load in the season for you, and you'll have a schedule with practices and games in that schedule, and you'll get reminders from TeamSnap that will tell you when your practices are, so that we can all be there. Please remember to communicate well with coaches, and all your practices will be loaded right onto that calendar by your coach. Game schedules will come out this week, which doesn't matter to you because you don't have a team yet, but it matters a lot to me so that I can begin planning our season and have those practice schedules ready. And so that when you get on TeamSnap, you'll be able to see all of your schedule set to go. A couple of things about being a spectator. This is one thing that I really am passionate about. It's something that I study a lot and talk to many schools about around the country, is about how to create gritty individuals based on the research and about the things going on. And I have a couple of suggestions. They're not mandates. They're not telling you how to parent or that you're doing a bad job. Please don't take it anything like that. Just simply take it as, here's some suggestions of things that can help us build resilient students. And so my encouragement as a spectator, as a parent, is to just enjoy the game and partner with us as we try to build these athletes. So one is be supportive. And what that really means about being supportive is a fan, their job is to cheer on the team and encourage the team to be their best. And a lot of times we think a fan needs to help the official, or they need to tell their child where to go on the court, or they need to call the play or call their child over from the stands and talk to their child. That's not being supportive to the coach or the team. And so be supportive by saying, hey, my job is to encourage and love this team from the stands. It's not to talk to officials or any of those other things. Just simply encourage the team to be its best. Resist the urge to be outwardly frustrated with officials or your son or your daughter. We're in winter 2 now, from the stands. Now, I know that's hard to do sometimes, but please let the coach do the coaching and support by just loving the kids, being silent or positive with our officials, and be supportive of that situation. Certainly when the child gets in the car, sitting at your dinner table, the other 22 hours of the day that you're with them, coach them up however you want to. They're your child, please do that. And please continue to be such a positive influence on them that many of you are. But for that little bit of time, please allow our coaches to do their thing and just be supportive. The second thing is focus on us. So when we are at the game, it's really important that I know that when I'm at a game, I always worry sometimes about the other fans and if the other team is doing a bad job or something like that. But I think the best thing for us to do is to focus on our players, our attitudes, our intensity, our work ethic, our level of motivation out there, our attention to detail, our results, and leave the other things to the other people. If we talk all the time about the results that occur, what will happen is our kids will develop fixed mindsets, and fixed mindsets are not gritty. They are brittle. They think that the ends justify the means, and a lot of bad things come out of that the research would tell us. So the best thing I can tell you is when you're in those 22 other hours of the day and you're talking to your child about basketball or about some of these other things, my encouragement is to constantly talk to them about their intensity, their work ethic, their attitude, the way they went about their business, not necessarily the plays or the lineup that the coach had in or what the official said or something like that. Work on that process, the things we can control with your child, and they'll start to see that the things they can control are the most important things to you and the most important things to our coaches. And if we hit them from both of those angles, they're really going to start to learn a different way. And so that will take some intention to detail, because we've all been, and myself included, trained to really focus on those results and blame a lot of things on, try to blame things on other people. I know I grew up that way, and it takes a lot of time for me to get out of that. So speaking from my own experience, I have to try to work really hard to focus my leadership and coaching on controlling the things we're allowed to control. And so my encouragement is for you to do the same. And by doing that, what we're going to really do is reduce the influence of a victim mentality, as Coach Riley always tells me, Ruben Riley from here. He says, we just, in society, it seems we're constantly constantly trying to coach kids out of a victim mentality. Something doesn't go right, we blame this. Something doesn't go right, we blame this. It's somebody else's fault all the time. It's somebody else's. And it just gets us back to that: control the things that we can control, reduce the victim mentality, build a resilient, growth-oriented mindset by empowering them to manage the things they can control. And so those are a couple of things that I always like to encourage the parents, because, man, coaches are trying their best to do those things from their end. If parents are doing those things, I mean, that just makes such a huge difference. You are the biggest influence in their lives. And a lot of times, the second biggest influence in some of these kids' lives is their coach and their teacher. And so we're really working hard to kind of bring all those people together with similar information. And so thank you for just listening to some of those suggestions and ideas. And if some of those fit with kind of the way that you think, I think that'd be awesome. If you have more questions for me, please let me know. Last thing here, I got a question in here. Will I be able to avoid practices or games on the nights of high school scheduling for 8th grade? Yeah, the scheduling nights are no games and no practices for 8th grade. I've already blocked those out in the schedule. Laura, thank you for that question. So you can schedule your scheduling night any of those nights, 8th graders. You can pick any one. Your team will not compete those nights. Mr. Vance, when do you expect games to start? Games will start on not the first Saturday, but the second Saturday. I believe that's the 16th is my thought, that it's the 16th. Is that second Saturday of January? That would be the date of the first set of games. Good questions there. If there's any other ones, keep putting them in there. We'll keep talking about them. The last little part of what I always talk about here is, coach interactions. I've been a coach a long time. 17 years I've been a coach. 9 years I've been an athletic director. And I just want you to know, and I'm very careful now as I'm a parent and my son is playing athletics, that the email that the coach gets from a parent is one that always makes them scared and nervous. They always expect the worst in a communication. And so we're always afraid of what a parent is going to do, because these coaches, they want to please kids and they want to please parents. They want to do a good job. And whenever we get a parent email, we always get nervous. And I just tell you that from personal experience, coaching basketball, golf, whatever the sport is that I've coached over 17 years. Whenever I get a parent email, I get a little nervous. Okay. But what I want to do first is compliment soccer, volleyball, boys basketball, and girls basketball last year. But the 4 seasons last year and the 3 we've had this year are the 7 best seasons of coach interactions with parents that we have ever had. And I want to credit COVID for that. I think part of that is that we've realized that sports are a blessing. They're an opportunity. They're a fun thing for us to be part of, and people are doing their best to make them happen. And so the benefit of the doubt has become something that a lot of people have been willing to engage. And what I want to say is thank you to Grand Rapids Christian community. It has been a blessing for our coaches to work with you and a blessing for me to work alongside you. What I tell all of our coaches is our parents are our allies. They are our people. They are our partners. Okay, I don't know whatever school you came from, but here we partner and we want to communicate well and love our parents, not stay away or keep them at an arm's length. And so we want them to encourage that. And so please help us do that well. And a couple of suggestions I have that have really made a big difference is that we have to understand that a great experience is often, it's fun, but a great experience is often challenging and difficult. and it doesn't feel good at times. We talk about desirable difficulty with our coaches, providing that difficulty to students. So when your child comes home saying, "Oh, coach was hard today, coach," maybe the answer is, "Oh yeah, that's great. Tell me what he did. Tell me what she did." Because we want to embrace some of those challenges and difficulties. Sometimes when your child comes home and they're stewing a little bit, it's okay to let them stew. Those turn into great experiences because they learn how to manage that challenge. So great experiences have to be sometimes things that are difficult and challenging. And the more difficult and challenging they are, when we get on the other side of that, that becomes a great experience that we had. Nobody writes home about something that was easy, simple, and it was always easy and simple, and then it was done. So we have to remember that great experience. You guys have been awesome with gratitude to coaches about just the things that they're doing. It's been so fun to hear some of these things from coaches, that parents have been so supportive, giving them the benefit of the doubt. When you go to coach, people have been so good about going to coach with questions instead of statements. I always tell people about my 4-year-old daughters who are 4 years old. And when I come home, they have a story for me about something the other one did. And it always is slanted in their favor in some way. And then the other one has a story for me about what the other one did, and it's always slanted in her favor in some way. And they're 4, and they already know how to do this. And what I submit to you is that your child will come home, and they've had 8 to 12 more years to practice this skill, right? So just remember that they're going to have a version of this. And that coach who was hired because he or she is a lover of the Lord, somebody who wants to mentor your child, somebody who's an adult, somebody who's had all these years on the earth and they want to give back to your child's experience. They have a side too. So please ask them questions instead of telling them that your child is 100% right all the time. And when we've done that, we've created conversations instead of animosity. And it's been fantastic. And I've really loved to see how we've grown our parents and our coaches together as a team. And I think our athletic culture all the way through 12th grade feels so different because of that. So thankfully for your work in middle school to learn that and treat our coaches that way. It makes a huge difference for the types of people that we can get and retain because they want to be part of our community instead of opting out of it. And so thank you so much. I want to also remind you about club sports and educational athletics. They're different. Club sports are really important. They help us develop kids. They help us learn skills. But educational athletics is certainly not centered on the individual. Educational school athletics is about the team, about sacrificing for another, about caring for other people and making the whole bigger than the self. And so club sports does a lot to develop skills and is very important. I have nothing against club sports, but the goals of club sports are often slightly different than the goals of educational athletics. And so please remember to separate the two. If you're expecting our school here to operate like a club sport organization, it won't happen. The goals are different, as I just mentioned, and vice versa. So please just remember that. If you're in club sports, that's awesome. We love it. We want all our kids doing all these different things, and we're so excited for that. Communicate well with your coaches, and please work with them in sharing your schedules and that sort of thing. So please continue to engage in club sports, but remember, they're not quite the same as educational athletics. And so they're very valuable, but please continue to do them, but please communicate well. And enjoy the team aspect, the team over self aspect of educational athletics. I'm going to check the questions here, and then we're going to talk about COVID very briefly before we go. January 15 is our Saturday, not 16. That was my mistake. So thank you, Sharon, for that. 15th will be the first day of games for our kids. I don't see any other questions. And so COVID, basically the cliff notes for COVID, I'll bring those up here and share it with you so you can kind of see what I'm telling coaches and what the league is telling us. And if you have questions about that, please let me know. It's gone very well for us in our Winter 1 season with boys basketball. So I think you can see this now. And what I'm telling the coaches up there are the things that you see on the screen. We need the 5th and 6th grade kids by requirement to wear a mask during basketball events. Just like at school, the 5th and 6th graders still have to wear a mask to practices. All of our 5th and 6th coaches have to wear a mask. When you're at an event for us, myself and the table staff or whoever is working the event will have masks on. And that is something that is required for 5th and 6th grade. And for anyone working an event, they are to wear a mask during that time. So that's kind of the mask information. I still encourage you to have kids bring water bottles on their own, so that they're not sharing water bottles or, standing around a drinking fountain, breathing on each other for a while. Have them grab a water bottle is always great. Starting practice, we want the kids to stay home if they don't feel good. There's no like, hey, Michael Jordan was sick and he played the game and he scored 45 points and he's a hero. We're in middle school sports here with a very serious pandemic on the in the situation, and so we need kids to stay home if they don't feel good. So please do that. Please report to us with any COVID related tracking. Obviously, with the new variant out there, there's a whole different ball game of things going on. And we have a person at school, Christy Vanderwood, who heads that up. She's in touch with me. So please let myself, your coach, Christy, Sarah, Seth, let someone know what's going on so that we can follow as best we can and make sure that kids are being safe and we're minimizing quarantines and all that kind of stuff and getting kids tested when necessary, so that we can manage the situation. It's gone really well in boys basketball. And, I would assume that it will go well again for our girls program this winter 2 season. Parents, one of the things that the school has kind of asked is that with drop off and pick off procedures, that you just drop them and let them come in. We're trying to reduce the amount of people in the building whenever possible. I know that during games, many people can be in here, but just reducing the amount of people in the building reduces chances of things. And so just drop them off. When it's time to pick up, they'll head right out to you. And it works out pretty well. With attending games, the spectators are not required to wear masks. It's always recommended to wear masks. So if you're willing to do that, you certainly can. Same thing with players in 7th and 8th grade. They're recommended to wear masks. If they want to, they certainly may. There's nothing wrong with that. We do have admissions charges at all of the GRCMS games. And again, that's the way that schools can earn money for their building. It's how we pay our workers. It's how we buy new uniforms. It's how we get new basketballs. And so, I know it's kind of annoying to pay a couple bucks at each thing, but just know when you're paying those couple dollars, you are helping this league flourish. You are helping this league continue to have better facilities, better equipment, better uniforms, so that kids can have a better experience as part of that. So thank you for doing that. And the last thing I always note is that carpooling. The first question I get from Christy Vanderwood at any time is, did any of these kids carpool together during the game? Because if they're in a car unmasked for more than those 15 minutes, there's a different set of things that she has to go through. And so please, if you're carpooling people, which is certainly encouraged, just like on a bus, kids have to wear a mask on the bus. We'd encourage you to, if you have different people from different families in a car, that you have people wear a mask. And that's just encouraged. It's not a requirement or anything like that. So it is appreciated. But that is all that I have for us tonight on my list. Is there any questions that people have for me about what to expect for basketball? Yes, Peter, there will be 2 7th grade teams, and it will be equal split. It'll be an equal split in 7th grade. Any other questions that somebody might have, just unmute yourself and ask, or type it in the chat. Ben is wondering, coaches, tonight, I guess I can do a roll call for that. Megan Taylor's 5th grade. 6th grade is, oh man, I gotta think. I've been trying to get volleyball coaches the last couple of days here. 6th grade is gonna be Steve DeBoer, and Cherie Smith and Beth Kale will be partnering as one team. Steve DeBoer will be another team. 7th grade is Dina Willis and Lizzie Voss. And 8th grade is McCaven Sickle. And the B team coach will be Josie Dalrymple and Kelsey Waltering, college students from Kelvin University. So Ben, I hope that answers your question. Is there anybody else that has a question? Yep, one team for 5th grade, yep. GRCMS be a host for 8th grade games. It seems like the large majority of 7th grade games are at other GRCX schools. Rob, it's a good question. I don't get to decide who plays where. The league assigns it. I certainly have our gym available for the nights that games are assigned. And typically we're going to get a lot of 7th and 8th grade games in our gym because it's one of the bigger gyms. So we try to play the 7th and 8th graders on the bigger floors around the league. And then the 5th and 6th graders, if you've had kids go through 5th and 6th, often those games are at other venues because they have smaller gyms and smaller kids. And so there is a bit of an imbalance. If you're a 5th and 6th grade, you play away more often because there's smaller courts at those gyms. Where we get a lot more 7th and 8th grade games. But I always am available. So we're trying to get as many games as we can here. Those are great questions. Does anybody else have any questions for me at this point? Okay, well, I will just say to you that thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I know it's a busy time, but I do appreciate your participation and your willingness to come and hear about, basketball at Grahams Christian Middle School. A reminder that you'll get an email from your grade level coaching team. They'll kind of send a dual email together to all the kids and all the families in their grade level between the 2 holidays, because we, unfortunately have the holidays are right at the end of each week. It's kind of hard to send something out on a holiday, but they'll send them out between the holidays or maybe that Saturday right before, but that will give you the information for the team formation week of January 3. So you can expect that from your coach after Christmas, but before we come back to school. Okay, well, Debbie, thank you for the comment. Really appreciate your positive comment there. It means a lot. And I appreciate each of you. Look forward to seeing you around the gyms, around the games, and wish all of you happy holidays. And if you have any questions, you've got my email, send me a note. I'd love to talk to you, love to hear from you, but appreciate all your support and your willingness to come tonight. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.